The problem is not that you don't know enough English. The problem is that when you open your mouth, your English has no music, no power, no life. You know the words, but the words come out flat, lifeless, forgettable. I want to tell you about the greatest speaker who ever lived, a man who walked into a room full of senators, men with swords, with armies, with power, and he opened his mouth, and the whole room went silent, not because of his strength, not because of his money, because of his words. His name was Marcus Tullius Cicero, born in 106 BC, died in 43 BC. He was not the biggest man in Rome. He was not the richest. He had no army, but he became the most powerful voice in the entire Roman Republic. Why? Because he mastered one thing that nobody teaches you in English school, the art of speaking. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you Cicero's 5 rules for powerful speech, adapted for you in 2026. These rules will not just help you speak English. They will change how you speak, in meetings and interviews with native speakers, on video calls, everywhere. Stay with me. If you are B1 or B2, you already know a lot of English. You understand me right now. You can read emails. You can watch movies. You understand most conversations. But here's the problem. When you speak, you sound flat. You use the same words again and again. You hesitate. You say, and, 50 times a minute. And the worst part, you feel invisible. You feel like your thoughts are big and important, but your English makes them sound small and boring, like you are reading a dictionary instead of speaking from the heart. That is not a vocabulary problem. That is not a grammar problem. That is a delivery problem. And Cicero solved that problem 2,000 years ago. So let's begin. Rule 1. Know your first sentence before you open your mouth. Cicero used to say, preparation is everything, and the beginning is best. Before every speech, every single time, Cicero knew exactly how he would start. Not just the topic, the exact first sentence, word by word, because your brain is like an engine. When you start cold, basically, your brain never warms up. The first 5 seconds of any English conversation are the most important 5 seconds. If you stumble at the start, you spend the entire conversation trying to recover your confidence. So here is rule 1 in practice. Memorize 10 first sentences for different situations, not full scripts, just openers, landing strips for a business meeting. I want to start with something that surprised me this week. For a difficult question, that's a great question. Let me think for just 1 second. For meeting someone new. So what's your story? How did you end up here? For a job interview, the honest answer is, this is exactly the kind of challenge I've been looking for. These are not magic phrases. They are engines. They give your brain 3 to 5 seconds to take off and fly. And once you're flying, you don't need the landing strip anymore. Try it this week. Before every English conversation, any conversation, even a quick one, choose your first sentence. Say it in your head before you open your mouth. You will feel the difference immediately. Rule 2. Speak slower than you think you should. Cicero was famous for his silences. He would say something powerful, and then stop and look at the audience. In silence. For 3, 4, 5 full seconds. And the senators would lean forward, wanting more. Most English learners do the exact opposite. They speak fast, very fast, because speed feels confident, because pausing feels like you forgot the word. But here is what actually happens when you speak too fast. Native speakers miss half of what you say. Your accent gets stronger, your pronunciation gets sloppy, and you fill every gap with basically, because your brain can't keep up with your mouth. Cicero's second rule, pace is power. The slower you speak, the more intelligent you sound. The more you pause, the more people listen. Try this experiment right now. Take any sentence from your day, and say it again 30% slower. Add 1 real pause in the middle, not a hesitation, a deliberate pause. 2 full seconds of silence. Notice how different it sounds. Notice how much more control you feel. The next time you speak English, speak as if every word costs money. because your words do cost something. They cost attention. And in 2026, attention is the most valuable currency in the world. Don't waste it with speed. Rule 3. Upgrade one word per sentence. Cicero spent years studying vocabulary, not to impress people, but because he understood something that most learners never figure out. The right word is worth 10 average words. Here is a problem I see constantly with B1 and B2 students. You use the same 50 words for everything. Everything is good or bad or nice or difficult. Your feelings are sad or happy. Your ideas are interesting or boring. But when you speak Portuguese, you have a huge range. You feel devastado. You feel encantado. Something is perturbador or exasperant. You have nuance. You have color. But in English, you play in black and white. So rule 3 is this. Every day, choose one word you use all the time and replace it with something stronger. Replace good with remarkable, valuable, or solid. Replace bad with devastating, flawed, or concerning. Replace interesting with striking, provocative, or compelling. Replace I think with I believe, I'm convinced, or my sense is. Just one word per day. That is 30 new precision words per month. In 1 year, you have a vocabulary that sounds like a native, not because you studied more, because you chose better. One word at a time. Rule 4. Tell a story, not an explanation. This is the rule that separates good speakers from great ones. And Cicero mastered it completely. When Cicero wanted to convince a senator of something, he never said, "Here are 3 logical reasons why." He said, "Let me tell you what happened to my friend Quintus last summer in Sicily." Because the human brain does not process arguments. It processes stories. When you explain, people listen politely and forget. When you tell a story, people lean in and remember. This is gold for your English, because you probably do this naturally in Portuguese. But in English, you switch to explanation mode because stories feel harder. More vocabulary, more complex grammar, more risk. Here is the fix. Steal a structure. The simplest story structure in English is just 4 words. Someone wanted something, but my friend wanted a job in London, but she was too scared to apply. So she asked me for help, and I told her the one thing that changed everything. Now I want to keep listening. Now I want to know what you told her. That is a story. And you just created that tension with 35 simple words. Next time someone asks you, what do you do? Or, what have you been working on? Don't explain. Tell a story. Watch their eyes light up. Watch them lean forward. That is the Cicero effect. Rule 5. End with one sentence they will never forget. Cicero always had a closing line. One perfect sentence that would ring in people's ears for days. He understood something fundamental. The last thing you say is the thing they remember. Most English learners end their sentences with, "Yeah, so that's basically it." That is the verbal equivalent of ending a movie with a blank screen and no music. All that build-up for nothing. So here's the 5th rule. Prepare your last sentence before you start speaking. Know where you are going, and end with purpose. Some patterns that always work. End with a question. So now the question is, what are you going to do about it? End with a contrast. Most people choose comfort. You're here because you chose growth. End with a challenge. Try this tomorrow morning, just once, and tell me if I'm wrong. End with a simple truth. You already know the answer. You just needed permission to act. One strong closing sentence will make people remember you in a meeting, in an interview, in a presentation, in a conversation at a party, in a message, anywhere. End with intention. End like Cicero. Now let's practice together. Right now, I want you to repeat these 5 sentences out loud. Don't skip this part. This is the most important part of the entire video. Sentence 1. I always know my first sentence before I open my mouth. Say it. Sentence 2. I speak slower than I think I should. Say it with a pause in the middle. Sentence 3. I choose one better word every single day. Say it. Sentence 4. I tell stories, not explanations. Say it with confidence. Sentence 5. I always am a sentence they will never forget. Say it like you mean it. You just used every Cicero rule in this video. In practice, in real English, right now, Cicero would approve. Now I have one question for you, and I want a real answer in the comments. Of the 5 Cicero rules, which one is your biggest weakness right now? Rule 1, you don't know your first sentence before you start. Rule 2, you speak too fast. Rule 3, you use the same 50 words for everything. Rule 4, you explain instead of telling stories. Rule 5, you end with yeah, so basically, drop the number in the comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And if you're brave, write one sentence telling me what you can change this week. I read every single comment. I respond to as many as I can. And I genuinely want to know where you are right now. If Cicero changed something for you today, subscribe to the channel right now. Turn on the notification bell. Because next week, I'm taking you to the 20th century. We had Seneca for the mindset. We had Cicero for the voice. Next week, we go to Richard Feynman, the Nobel Prize winner, the physicist who learned how to explain anything at all, in simple, clear, powerful language. And I'm going to give you his technique, adapted for your English, in a way that will completely rewire how you learn vocabulary forever. It's called the Feynman technique, and it will change how you study English permanently. Subscribe. Don't miss it. And remember, don't just study English. Speak it with power, with intention, with your whole voice, like a Roman senator, like Cicero. I'll see you next week.